Hello and welcome to the Iowa 80 Trucking Museum for our 10th annual 100th birthday party event, and also our first, and we hope only virtual, Walcott Truckers Jamboree. Since 2010, we have celebrated the 100th birthday of one of our trucks here at the museum during the Walcott Truckers Jamboree. And normally we would have this whole lobby filled with people waiting to hear more about the birthday truck and waiting for a piece of birthday cake. I'm here today with our 1920 GMC K71 3.5 ton truck. GMC has always been known to be the truck building branch of General Motors. This truck is a great example of a truck ahead of its time in engineering. The engine was of a total new design with removable sleeves, full pressure oiling system, and a 2-range GMC built transmission with 8 forward speeds. The engine has a 4.5-inch bore and a 6-inch stroke, giving 381.7 cubic inches and 51 horsepower. A little history on this particular truck. In 1991, Bill Moon went to the Earl Marhanka auction. Earl was a widely known truck and tractor collector of pre-1930 vintage trucks and tractors. There were over 350 trucks and tractors on this sale, with many of them being one-of-a-kind models. Earl's auction was a 2-day event, and a collection like that will probably never be seen or sold again. This truck is one of those one-of-a-kind, as I have not seen another one like this. Just to give you an idea of how large the Marhanka collection was, the barn where everything was kept was 80 feet wide and 1,250 feet long. Just for a point of perspective, our museum is just a little over 500 feet long. Now about the truck. As I said earlier, the engine was a new design for 1920 with removable sleeves that allowed for rebuilding the engine without removing it from the truck. This is very far ahead of its time. What this meant was a new piston, connecting rod, bearing, and sleeve could be installed very quickly after removing the head off the engine. Valve lifters and rollers could be accessed by removing 4 cap screws and a cover off the side of the engine. Through this opening, you can inspect the connecting rod bearings without removing the oil pan. This engine has a pressurized oil system which delivers pressurized oil to all moving parts of the engine while it is running. Makes this special. Many engines up into the 1930s still relied on a splash system where the connecting rods splashed oil onto the other moving parts. The engine has a cooling system of a combination of a pump and thermosiphon systems. The areas around the valve seats and the block and the combustion chambers in the head receive pressurized water from a pump on the engine, while the areas around the cylinders are cooled by the siphon method, much like a coffee percolator works. Ignition on the engine is by a magneto. Magneto allows an engine to run without a battery, and it's very simple. As batteries and early charging systems were not always dependable, a truck with a magneto ignition can run even with a dead battery or a faulty charging system. Anyone who has been stranded because of a dead battery can appreciate this. All you have to do with this truck is roll down a hill with the truck in gear and it will start. No battery needed. The engine also contained a mechanical governor to prevent over-revving the engine and prevent damage. Gasoline was supplied to the engine via a GMC 2-jet carburetor and a 24.5-gallon gas tank. The truck's transmission was very advanced for 1920 with 4 speeds forward and a high-low range selector giving 8 speeds in total. Quite unusual to have this in a truck. The brochure for this truck states that most trucks spend 96% of their time in high gear. So the engineers at GMC must have thought that it's important to include this high-low range feature. The transmission is in one case with 2 shift levers. This truck also has a multiple plate clutch for durability. The rear axle is a worm drive type, which was favored at this time. Worm drives are almost indestructible if cared for properly. The truck has an 8.75 to 1 gear ratio. High quality carbon steel semi-elliptic springs support the truck. Extra large brakes are used with copper asbestos heat resistant fabric linings. The brakes are mechanically applied, which means that there is a rod connected to the brake pedal, which goes back to the brakes, and so the amount of pressure you put on with your foot determines how much braking you have. I would imagine this could be create some excitement in the early days if you didn't plan ahead far enough. The service and emergency sections are interchangeable, so both linings could be used until both were worn out. The front axle is a drop forged I-beam section with the tie rod behind the axle to prevent bending from running into an obstruction. You can also adjust the steering gear to compensate for wear. Tires are solid rubber with 36" by 5" on the front and 40" by 5" on the rear. Both front and rear wheels were cast hollow spoke. Pneumatic or air-filled tires were available at an added cost. All these parts were built on a pressed steel frame of open hearth steel that was heat treated. 2 wheelbases were offered, 163" or 187. Chassis weight would be either 7,945 or 8,070 pounds. This allowed for a 14 or an 18-foot body to be mounted on the frame. Included with the truck were electric headlamps, 1 taillight, a generator, storage battery, horn, toolkit, and a jack. Thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you in person next year, July 8th, 9th, and 10th of 2021. Thank you.